You're listening to the Secure AF podcast.
Welcome to the Secure AF podcast. We've got a special podcast today. We're going to be talking about romance scams. We're getting really close. In fact, I'm not sure if this is going to hit right near Valentine's Day, but it's going to be really close. And unfortunately, those are the times of year that we have to think about our loved ones, and people get lonely, and that leads to romance scams. So my partner in crime, we've got Andrew Peters here today, and this is an interesting topic. We kind of thought of this topic, I guess, a few weeks ago, talking about different kinds of scams, and this one came up. And since Valentine's Day was coming up, we decided to have a little fun and hopefully help people with dealing with this. So let me ask, if you had to describe what a romance scam is, what is it?
So a romance scheme or romance fraud is basically where some type of attacker is going to try to get a victim to develop a romantic interest in them. And then they are going to leverage that romantic interest in order to get some sort of thing back from the victim. Most of the time it's money is what they're after.
And I mean, I know romance has it has romance in the word, but it is some sort of emotional, because doesn't always have to be that romantically involved, though most of the time it is, but any sort of that emotionally charged interaction. Someone feels lonely, there's someone talking to them, it builds a relationship. But I mean, I've had situations where people they thought they were talking to a friend, but they needed to have that emotional connection with them. And that's what led to that scam, being perpetrated against them.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the more emotionally vulnerable people are the people that are going to be targeted the most. People that are lonely, people that were recently divorced or just got out of a breakup, people who are, elderly, widows and widowers, who, may have lost their spouse. People who are just naturally empathetic, nurses, like other types of professions that require a high level of empathy. Those are the people who are going to be targeted, and the scammers are probably going to have the highest chance of success against them.
Yeah, and that's something to think about, because we all have family members that may be lonely. We have some that are just alone. They live alone, or like you said, maybe they had a spouse that passed away. Maybe they're older, or they're just vulnerable. Honestly, I think it even goes to very young people sometimes. You've got, it might be teenagers. It might be someone who is just looking for a connection with someone. And I have teenagers, and that's something that I think about is I want to make sure that their social interactions with people are good and are healthy. And I'm very fortunate. I have made them very paranoid over talking to people on the internet and different things. But that's really what I'm afraid of, is somebody just getting that emotional connection with them, because honestly, it feels good when you have someone that's interested in you or saying good things to you. It has a physiological response for sure, but it feels good.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially regarding like the younger generation of people, there's a whole other subset of problems where people will use this romantic interest to not even just defraud them, but actually coerce them, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But this is kind of one of those things where anybody can really fall victim to it. There's definitely groups of people that are going to be highly targeted because they are more vulnerable, but this is not just something that young people or old people or divorced people fall for. This can happen to anyone, and
of any position, of anybody. Again, it's emotional connection that it starts it. All right, well, let's talk about the uh, the building the relationship. Talk to me a little bit about how long this takes. How do they do this? How do they start this process of building this relationship with someone?
Well, almost always, they're going to meet over, some type of social media or dating app. That's how they typically establish communication. We see a lot of times they actually will very quickly try to get people to move off of that app.
Yep.
Um, and the reason why is kind of speculative. But a lot of people think that, there's a potential that they could be reported on the app and have their account taken down, or they or want to move over to a chat room where they have a little bit more control over the, like the retention of basically the evidence,
Sure.
whatnot. But yeah, so they're going to establish contact through some type of social media or dating app. Usually, very quickly convince the victim to switch to another type of form of communication. In terms of
And they'll help them do that. I mean,
yes,
they teach them. So it's actually, you're building a different kind of relationship with someone because, oh, here, let's use this. Let me teach you how to use it. And you've got that bond outside of the other connection of, oh, well, this is someone that's trying to help me. It's time to help me learn something new.
yeah, that definitely is a component of it. In terms of the time that it takes, some scammers move very quickly, and they'll try to kind of develop this romantic interest in the span of, maybe a couple of weeks before they, try to execute kind of the fraud. Some of them are a little bit more committed, and they'll spend a lot more time kind of working the victim. Um, so, for example, like, a recently divorced dad that doesn't have a lot of money, someone might try to move pretty quick, and, get a little bit of money out of him. But, like, if there's someone who has a lot of money and their net worth is publicly known, and the scammer knows that they've got them on the hook and they can just, spend a lot of time reeling them in and get a lot of money out of them, they'll keep them on the hook for a long time. Um, but typically, we see things move fairly quickly.
Yep.
And after they've developed this relationship, um, a lot of times we see the victims will ask to meet up, and uh, the scammers will always have a reason as to why they can't. Obviously, we know that it's because they're, probably in some Eastern
Oh,
European
sure.
country, but
Yeah.
they'll always come up with some type of convenient excuse, like, "Oh, I'm in the military. I'm,
Yep.
in another state. I can't.
Mm, oil rig.
I'm on an oil rig."
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a very common one.
There will always be some type of reason that seems justifiable as to why they wouldn't be able to meet up in person. And a lot of times that's when the victims might start questioning, the reality of the situation. But unfortunately, even if they start questioning it, a lot of times they don't disengage. And eventually it gets to a point where most commonly we see the scammer present some type of emergency,
Yeah. Crisis.
some type of crisis or exigent circumstance, like, hey, I was hospitalized, I got arrested, I need to be bailed out, my dog needs surgery, whatever they think will work the best for that particular victim to
Yeah.
socially engineer them into sending money.
Sure.
And sometimes the attackers will continue to
Oh, yeah.
find
Oh, yeah.
ways to extort these victims for money, and sometimes they just disappear, and
Yeah.
you'll never hear from them again. And at that point, people realize that they got scammed. Um, but at that point, it's unfortunately really kind of too late to do anything about.
Yeah, sometimes they figure that out. That's the thing. So, I mean, this kind of works through the process. You've got some sort of emotional connection. You've got a process in which the attacker will try to isolate the individual on a different platform or a different tool or some way to communicate with them. They're going to create some sort of fake crisis that they need money for or something else. They're going to request the money in a way that is hard to trace, and hard to get back. So instead of doing things through bank accounts, they're going to wire money. They're going to do certain kinds of things to where they get the money and it can't be pulled back out of the account, or it can't be traced, let's say Bitcoin or one of the other ways. And then they could just continue the relationship to see if they can get more money later, or they leave, they disappear. It's a psychological pen test is what it is. It's somebody who's working that emotional side of an individual and poking and prodding to figure out, what kind of crisis would it make a difference. So here's an example. I've had situations where the victim had kids. The attacker said they had kids and that one of their kids was in trouble. Maybe need medical help or whatever. But that was the piece that had the deepest connection to the victim because they also had kids. There was one where it was their dog. Their dog was sick, and the victim was a dog lover, and that really hooked on those heartstrings, and they were able to get a lot of money. So, I mean, these things happen. It really is. There's a lot of scams out there. There's a lot of bad things, but to me, this emotional trickery, this emotional attack is some of the worst that's out there because number one, it's so successful. And number two, it hurts people, just short of physically hurting them. If they were already in a bad spot, then this happened to them, that puts them into an even worse spot. I thought there was a movie a couple years ago called Beekeeper, where they talk about this sort of thing, where someone gets scammed and they committed suicide. And then the Jason Statham that was in the movie, he goes and gets revenge and things. But what really got me was the woman who committed suicide. She got scammed, and it wasn't a romance scam, but just imagine it was. And all of the money for her church got stolen because she had access to the account. And for her, she was retired. That was her whole focus in life was the church. And then all that money was gone. She didn't know what to do. She didn't have anybody to go to. And she committed suicide. This is not that far off. I mean, I've had situations where somebody has come to me as a CISO and says, this, and this happened, and now I'm being extorted. And he was very shaken up for it. I mean, I felt bad for him of what happened. And I gave him what he needed to do to protect himself and the other pieces. But just the hurt from him, this, again, it's emotional. The whole point of this is really hooking on to that emotion and doing bad things. So
Yeah, absolutely. And, unfortunately for a lot of people that fall victim to these types of scams, they may be retired. And
oh yeah,
they, may not have any way to, recoup that loss.
no,
And, it's a very sad situation. And you said, as you were kind of, running through the methodology that they tend to isolate you to a different communication platform. And one thing that they also do is they try to isolate you from other people in your life. Excuse me. And the reason why they do that is because other people who aren't as vulnerable are going to recognize the scam for what it is.
Yeah.
So they'll try to isolate you from your friends. They'll try to isolate you from your family. The scammer wants to be the primary person that you are communicating with in your life.
Sure. They want the control.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they want, and unfortunately, a lot of times they get it. But when they do that, almost kind of like a domestic abuser, when they get that control over your life, and when they have isolated you from the rest of your family, it becomes a very hard situation for people who are emotionally vulnerable to separate themselves from that.
Well, not only from the emotion side, it's just embarrassing sometimes.
Yeah.
I had a close family friend who got scammed for $3,000 or $4,000, and she didn't want to tell me. because this is my job. I mean, and this is what we do, and we help people. But she was embarrassed, and so she didn't want to tell me. And I'm like, if you had told me in the very beginning, I could have helped. I could have helped stop it, or, whatever it may be. And it's hard. We're dealing with people here, and that's the thing, is we're dealing with people from an emotional point of view that may be vulnerable. They may be embarrassed. They may be in denial. I mean, there's all kinds of different reasons. This is why it's so successful. And attackers know this. Okay, people who are vulnerable, what are some places that that these attackers start on? Like, what kind of platforms, social media platforms, do they look for victims on?
I mean, they're everywhere. They're going to be on any platform. I've seen a lot of them on dating sites that are set up especially for vulnerable people. So like any dating site that is like specifically designed for like elderly people or divorced people or even dating apps that are set up for specific like sexualities. Like unfortunately we see sometimes gay people can be extorted.
Sure.
That can be leveraged against them.
Yep.
We've seen things happen on Grindr and other gay dating apps where they basically use the fact that this person is in the closet to segregate them from the rest of the people in their life.
I mean, they may already feel isolated at that point.
Exactly.
And so they've got someone that may hear them in terms of how they're feeling. And then again, you're just manipulating those feelings and those emotional connections.
Yeah. Support groups are a big one. Religion or faith-based websites is another one that we see. And just normal social media platforms.
Oh, yeah.
Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's really no limit to these starts.
And those mobile games nowadays, that's one that I've seen a lot where people have gotten into these different game groups. So it's games. I mean, there are some games like on Facebook and LinkedIn, but there's also these other games that they've got these connections of people all around the world playing these games together. And they might spend 4, 5, 6 hours a day with these people playing this game, and that's a connection. And they get in there, they infiltrate that, and then they use that to their advantage.
Yeah, and I've seen stuff like that as well. Not in mobile games, but in Xbox or PC gaming, like Discord servers, especially these big servers where there's hundreds of people that have common interests gathered together.
Yep.
That's a place where it starts. Like I said, there's really there's nothing in particular that you should look out for. This is something that you have to expect everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you are a part of the vulnerable demographic. And that's one of the things that, human beings are generally not very good at recognizing their own emotions, I would say.
Well, it's a physiological response.
Yes.
So it's a different part of the brain that's involved.
Yes. So it's very hard for people to recognize these things happening to them. But, we really need to be careful. And at least if we're going to engage in discussion with these people, there have to be precautions that are taken to make sure that you don't become a victim of something like this. And I know some of the obvious ones, and we have other podcast episodes where we talk about this, but one of the best tools you can use is OSINT.
Yeah.
So I'll let you talk a little bit about that, but
well, before we get into that, I want to really talk about the tactics. We talk about why they do it, how easy it is. They talk about where they do it, but let's really talk about what are the tactics. There's a script that they follow. That it's that same process of how do you engage someone and make them feel good and or get them to do something with you. And there are certain things, and we've got notes here of kind of what that script is, and I want you to kind of go over it. because it's I have seen these pieces that work on people very, very easily. Even just the very first one is, or the second one on the list is, you're the only one I can talk to. That in itself, when you say that to someone, you are now building that connection that is at a very different level than just a coworker or a workout partner or a gaming partner. It's you're the only person I can talk to. I use that in some of my social engineering tactics when I teach this stuff is how do you get someone to do something? I can just tell you, go open that door. Or I could say, hey, would you mind opening that door for me? I've got my hands full. And I'll tell you, the first thing when I say just go open the door, everyone's like, go open it yourself. But when I ask you to do it for me, that I'm hooking to a different connection. And I think that's really, really important because if you can hook into that connection, you can sidestep some of those precautions. And that statement right there, you're the only one I can talk to, that absolutely builds that trust or a fake trust that they're now, oh, well, I mean something to them. This is important. This is not just we're gaming partners. We've got a deeper connection. I mean, that's exactly why they say it, and that's exactly why the attackers do it.
And these attackers, one thing to keep in mind, they're experts at this. Most of them have been doing this for years, and they're making up to hundreds of potential victims at a time. They have a lot of experience. They know what works. They know what doesn't. They'll very carefully examine your social media profiles to learn about what your interests are, what your family looks like, and they will use that and they will leverage it.
Yeah. They're hunting you.
Yes.
Keep that in mind. You have people out there right now that are hunting your loved ones because they think they're going to fall victim to this. And we can talk about scamming all day long, but when you start thinking about people that are hunting your family members, hopefully that changes your mind on things. That, oh, these people are out there on Facebook. They know what to say. They're practiced at it. Are they going to be successful? Think about how many people fall into, I mean, what was here's the list. It's people who are lonely, people who are in grief, people who are in divorce, aging populations, people who desire to feel valued. Think about it right now of all the people you know that might fall into one of those. Maybe a parent or a grandparent, maybe a friend, maybe someone that just broke up with someone. I mean, I bet you every single person who's listening to this podcast right now can probably think of 5 people that would fall under one of these groups of people.
Absolutely.
And the attackers know that. And the attackers are trained, they're practiced at using these scripts, using these techniques to get in there and hook into them, to pull them into that trust, into that relationship, that scam relationship. And it's terrible. I don't know. I mean, it really is bad. I mean, we see it all the time, but it works.
It does work, and it is bad. And unfortunately, sometimes it gets a whole lot worse.
Yeah.
And that is one thing that you need to consider as well, especially if you're a parent, is because sometimes these schemes escalate to, things beyond just fraud, or that was never the intention to begin with, is getting money out of people. People are out there on the internet using these exact same tactics to, leverage people for other things as well. Especially we see in the past, 15, 20 years, we have seen a exponential increase in, sexual extortion on the internet as well. And that is something that is built off of, romance fraud. They typically start off, leveraging that romantic interest that they would generate in, any sort of normal way. But instead of trying to get money from people, they're going to extort them. And unfortunately, most of the victims of that are children.
Yeah.
Younger teenagers who were just starting to use the internet. So
Yeah. What?
yeah,
They start using the internet when they're like 2.
well, maybe these days, but making me feel old over here.
Hey, I am old. Look at all the gray. I'm old.
But yeah, it really can.
Yeah.
It's bad, but it does get worse. And unfortunately, like I said, most of those victims are children. About 80% of them are teenage women. So, and most of the time they're going to, try to extort some sort of pornographic material, but even in about 20% of cases, they actually try to set up a physical encounter with the victim as well. So yeah, this is all very serious because you never know how deep it can escalate to.
Well, and the ones that I've had here recently, I had a situation where, I told you the individual came and talked to us. He talked to me directly, and he said, thought I was talking to my girlfriend, and it was someone that he had been talking to for months. They got him to send a picture, head down to knees, with nothing in between. And as soon as they got the picture, they says, all right, now I want you to give me $15,000 or I'm going to post this on your work's Facebook and tell them you sent this to my 12-year-old daughter. So it's a slightly different kind of scam. In that one, it's an extortion, but it started with a romance scam. Somebody built this relationship and then got the picture and then used that to extort them for money. And one of the problems was this particular person, this was not the first time this had happened. And it, regardless of the reason why, it was actually the third time that this had happened to them. The first time, I want to say it was several $100,000. He cashed out his 401k to give to them. And, I mean, he was just devastated when they broke off contact. So those sorts of things happen. And, again, once you have your hook in them, there's all sorts of stuff. I mean, thinking about getting a picture from a young person or capturing them to go meet somewhere and then whisking them off to do terrible things with them. I mean, this can turn into bad stuff all the way around. And we do these podcasts. We do it to help people. We do people to show people kind of what to think about, and how to help their family members, to help the community. And this one really bothers me because I don't like hurting people. I don't like when people get hurt. And I think about my family members, whether it be, my mom or my kids or, close families, they could fall victim to this. People I know, I mean, adults, regular adults in the industry can fall victim to this because we're dealing with emotions. Sometimes you can click on links. Got it. But most people can sit there and go, oh, yeah, that's a spam message. Don't click on it. But when you've got someone who's telling you all the things you want to hear, whether it be in text or in email or however, that's very different. It's that emotional connection.
Yeah. And, that's actually kind of one of the tells. And that's kind of a good segue to get into the how to recognize this and how to, what you can do to protect yourself against it. Unfortunately, this isn't really something that you can stop. All you can do is recognize it.
Yeah.
But some of the big tells that this is, fraud or a scam is, like I said earlier, OSINT. Actually, look up this person. Are they who they say they are?
Yeah.
Are these images, well, nowadays, generated by
It's hard.
AI?
Yeah.
But 10 years ago, chances are you could still reverse image search that and find out, well, this isn't actually this person. This profile picture is used on 15 different accounts.
Yep.
They will, a lot of times, tell you everything you want to hear. Right?
Yeah.
It sounds too good to be true. So that's another key indicator is just everything that you could possibly want to hear from a potential partner. They will say it, whatever they can do to get their hooks in. So if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Yep.
So another thing is, can they never meet up? If they can never meet up in person, that's a good indicator. Unfortunately, like I said, at that point, that's where most people realize this is a little weird. This person never has, they tell me all these things. They bombard me with love. They tell me that I'm the only person that they can talk to, but they never have the time to actually see me.
Yep. Yep.
So recognizing those things, those are pretty much universal in every single one of these attacks. Is they're going to tell you everything you want to hear. They're going to isolate you, and then they're going to never have a readout to meet up. So those are some really good indicators. In terms of like some general safety, don't send money to people that you've never met in person.
Yep.
That's, obviously that's easier said than done because so many people
Don't send money to people, period.
Well, yes, but
There's that one.
don't send money to people that you don't know or anyone.
Yeah.
Don't send lewd photos of yourself.
Never. Never.
We work in cybersecurity. We could make a whole podcast about just the bad things that happen.
And we should. Yeah. Don't ever take pictures of yourself, period. If you put a digital picture, it's going to be out there. It's on your phone. It's on the internet. It's backed up somewhere. Just don't do it at all, ever. We find them. We see them. Sometimes we see them before you do. You don't want that. Just please don't.
Yeah. And not only is it just embarrassing, if that information were to get leaked, but it, like I talked about earlier, it could very easily be used to, coerce you into doing something that they want, and it might be worse than just give me money. So don't send lewd photos to people.
Yep.
Just don't do it. Blanket rule. Just don't. Are there any other things that you would recommend people as a CISO of just, we talk about good cyber hygiene all the time.
Yep.
I always tell people, limit the personal information you keep on your
Absolutely.
accounts. And that's a big component to this as well, because they're looking at those.
Yeah.
Like you said, they're hunting you.
They're trying to find information out about you to use against you. So yeah, limiting that is always a good idea for lots of different reasons. One of the things that I always tell people is tell someone about it. If you have a relationship with someone, go tell a friend. Maybe it's not even just a friend. Go tell a coworker. Have someone that has an outside viewpoint. And if you are being scammed and extorted, or scammed in period, they're going to tell you not to. Don't tell anyone about this. But that's a red flag. Go tell a friend. Go tell someone you trust and say, hey, I met this person. This is what's happening. They might be able to say, oh, that may be a scam. Be careful. That's one of those things that I really tell people of, if you're not allowed to tell other people what's going on, maybe you shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's very important. Get the perspective of someone that doesn't have the rose-tinted glasses on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing is, this is a problem. It will only be fixed by helping fill those voids for people. If you have someone that might be in this list of vulnerable people, go talk to them. Go take them out for lunch. Go teach them about this stuff, about these attacks. Because if you can fill that void in them, then maybe they won't fall victim to this. Now, for organizations, I think this should absolutely be part of your security awareness or attack awareness training. Because if you have employees that might fall victim to this, instead of getting money, what if the attacker says, hey, can you give me your password for 30 minutes so I can log into your work? There's a lot of things that could happen. I'm going to send you a flash drive so you can plug it into your network. So I think it's really all of us, as a community, whether it be work and all your employees or family members, go and talk to them, go and engage them, let them know that these scams are there and that they could come and talk to you about it or ask you questions. A legitimate relationship should be something that you could talk to someone about. A legitimate relationship should not be something that turns into them asking for a lot of money. I'm not going to say this about women, but I'll say this about guys. Just be mean old bastards. Don't talk to people like that. Don't be nice to people. That way you can't get scammed. I know that sounds funny, but the more and more that I see this and I get people, that's kind of what I wanted to be, is don't fall for it. Someone sends you a really nice flowery text. It may be legitimate if you know the person, not if you get it randomly. We're very short on time. I've only got a minute. Do you have any final words, Peters?
Just be careful.
Yeah.
This is one of those things that, with the proliferation of the internet, is just unavoidable.
Yeah.
This has been happening for decades, and there's no stopping it. It is only going to continue. And unfortunately, this is one of those things where once it's done, there's nothing you can really do about it. So exactly like you said, do some research on the people that you're messaging, see if their accounts look real. Tell someone about it. And if you see indicators like they try to isolate you from your friends, they can never meet up in person, just stop talking to them.
Yeah.
And I know that is going to be difficult for people.
Sure.
They think they have an emotional connection, but if you can't verify that they're legitimate, and it could possibly be a scam, you have to protect yourself, because emotional damage is one thing. Financial damage is a totally different thing.
Or physical damage. I mean, think about the sex trafficking and all that. Yeah.
The problems that can arise from this are not just you're going to be sad for a while. It can be financial, it can be physical harm. So you just have to protect yourself, and the only way that you can realistically do that is recognize the signs and stop.
Yeah.
Stop talking to them.
Remember, you are being hunted. Our most vulnerable people that are around us are being hunted by these people, by these attackers. So we need to do whatever we can to stop them. And that's education, that's asking questions, that's being part of that community, and really helping people. So with that, since I am getting the evil eye from Samantha over here, I think we're going to end it on this very chipper and upbeat topic. And I hope everyone has a great rest of the week. I promise our next podcast is going to be much more lighthearted and a lot more fun. But these topics are really important. It's important to me. I think it's important to you too.
Absolutely.
And I want people to really understand the effects of this and how it can have major impacts on people. So again, have a great rest of the week, and we will catch you next time on the Secure AF podcast. Thanks, everybody.
The Secure AF podcast is a production of Alias Cybersecurity. Visit us online at aliascybersecurity.com. All rights reserved.